Hello, everyone. We are security researchers from Trend Micro, and it's really my honor to have a presentation here in Amsterdam. This is my first travel to Amsterdam. And today, our topic is about the Hourglass fuzzing, a quick bug hunting method. First, I will ordinarily introduce my team member. And this is me, Mooney. I have about 9 years of security experience, focused on the vulnerability hunt and exploiting, mainly on the iOS and mobile, and also Mac and Windows. And this is member.
Hello everyone. My name is Lilang, and I have 4 years of security experience, and is a member of Mobile Advanced Threat Research of Trend Micro, and now focus on macOS and iOS vulnerability discovery and malware hunting.
Hello everyone. My name is Jiang, and I'm an engineer learning from Trend Micro and has 1 year's security experience. I focus on mobile security research and enjoy color vulnerability and enjoy reverse engineering.
Hello everyone, I'm Todd, and in this section I will show you the user-specified fuzzing strategies of our implementation.
Okay, first I will go through the pinpoint about fuzzing method and code revealing for the security researchers. As we all know, the key thinking of AFL, which is the most popular feedback-based fuzzing, is that it and its variance is to mutating the input corpuses according to some syntaxes and record the code coverage so that it could keep good input corpuses, which could bring more code coverages to further mutation. And another kind of variance is for the system call fuzzing, which we call it syzkaller. Syzkaller is most like of AFL version towards system call fuzzer, which is based on the QEMU VM with basic block code coverage feedback. Researchers should pass system calls format as a prototype and configure the fuzz agent before run the fuzzing cycle. What is good is that syzkaller could reproduce the crash to generate a POC code by corresponding log and as automatically as possible. So from the brief comparison of the typical bug hunting methods in the table, we could see that. Take the Google Cluster Fuzz products, which is based on the AFL or libFuzzer. For example, the code coverage feedback is based on base fuzzing is suitable for deployed at large scale. However, you will usually touch the code coverage ceiling mostly because the deep code location could not be easily touched because of data dependency and code execution sequence dependency. And also, they could not help to find new attack surfaces because all fuzzing interface is configured by the expert knowledge, which is error known. On the other hand, the code revealing, for example, as the Google product zero team did, is usually a good way to find new attack surfaces and good vulnerabilities hidden in the deep location, especially for logic vulnerabilities. However, it is really time-consuming and the result is unexpected, as we know. Just like the traditional Chinese 八卦 says, 阴阳互生, which means the two extremely opposite sides could always contain each other. Maybe we could merge the 2 different kinds of fuzz methods and code revealing together. So, how? Let's think about the hourglass at above. The upper part and the lower part are connected in a single channel as the bottle tag. In which point all send flow from is dripped into the lower part. If we control the bottle tag by size and by filter, we could control all the flow from the upper side, down side slower and faster. So, can you find the high similarity between Hourglass and operating system? Take the Android kernel fuzzing, for example. The upper side means user mode data deliver or code execution, and the lower part means the kernel part. And the bottle tag means also mode switches channel, such as system call, memory map, binder, and so forth. Take the user fuzz, for example, as the left column shows. The upside could mean any working with lower privileges application, and the downside could means zones of process with higher privileges. The bottle tag would mean all external API interfaces or mechanisms such as the binder, socket, IPC communication, as you can imagine it. So why not intercept and taint the normal user flow at the bottle tag of the Hourglass? The advantage of Hourglass is obvious. The fuzz activity could touch deep code location because the normal user activities with little fuzz could bypass any validation, most elevated validations check in the kernel mode part with high probability. And we will taint and mess up the interesting kernel part, which crash the whole kernel, which maybe indicate new or unknown attack surfaces in this way. In practical, for example, we could usually cause for example, the Android graphic driver KGSL crashes in about 1 minute, which the first time is largely reduced comparing the traditional fuzzing method and code revealing. So the main workflow of our Hourglass fuzzing could be like this. So more, you will multiply the fuzz sources as normal as possible. For example, when you're launching and playing the big online 3D online games such as Dota by Blizzard, and connecting Wi-Fi, Bluetooth like devices, and so forth like that. So more data and execution traffic will go through the bottle tag, and the more and deeper the fuzz will coverage. So you could feed the crash info and code coverage information back to the fuzzing source agent, so that more new fuzzing sources could be multiplied. This is our philosophy of Hourglass fuzzing. And now we will introduce our practice in both the user mode fuzzing and kernel mode fuzzing. And first, we will introduce our user space fuzzing by Todd.
Hello guys, now it's my part. And and like many followers, in the user space fuzzing part, we will talk about 4 parts, including the strategy of selecting attack interfaces and enable the Sanitizer Support and the fuzzing strategy and some practice in our implementing. And first is how we select the attack interfaces. As we know, on Android, there are many system apps and user-installed apps. And not like the user-installed apps, system apps usually corresponding to system services, which can touch more data, and that the user-installed apps can't. So firstly, these services corresponding apps are our candidates. Then what we concern is that whether these apps ever exposed vulnerabilities before, which will help us to determine where to focus on and fast. And also, it should have a relatively stable format, for it will make it a little easily to trigger different code paths. And finally, after the investigation of the code, we finally found that the system apps, like the Bluetooth and the NFC, match what we want. Okay, here, and we all know that Bluetooth will have some famous vulnerabilities like blue bronze, and also as the figure shows, the Bluetooth also exposed many data process callbacks, which will directly process the raw Bluetooth packets. And here we will use Bluetooth like this. Here we will use Bluetooth as an example to show you how do we do it. Yeah. So now let's have a glimpse of Bluetooth. As we know, in Android 9, the system package Bluetooth still takes the response to make device Bluetooth work well for users. And what changes a little is that it's a so file libBluetooth.so play as the main module to handle and process Bluetooth packets that pass into and send out. So as this figure shows, there are many binary related to Bluetooth. In the user place, the libBluetooth SO will contain the main implementations of the Bluetooth stack machine, including the HCI, L2 cap, and other high layers, which is on the top of the L2 cap. And this SO file, the Jiang SO file, is used by the system's Bluetooth app, which also serves a Bluetooth service to control the Bluetooth stack, like the enable, close, and other configurations on the Bluetooth stack. And this SO file, the bundle SO file is used for the local applications which want to use Bluetooth. And in here we will focus on the libBluetooth.so, the main implementation of the stack machine. So this is the source tree of the Bluetooth. You can see that so many folders here are waiting for us to investigate. But in fact, some of them are unnecessary for us. And after analyze the vulnerabilities the Bluetooth ever exposed before, and some dynamic debugging investigation, we finally chose to focus on the folder stack, the use driver, and the embedded driver. First is the stack folder. This stack folder contains the implementations of each profile's state machine and the callbacks. And the use driver folder contains the URPC related code. And finally, the embedded driver folder includes an embedded encoder and decoder, which will be used when streaming media data. And as you see, here is the contents in the stack folder. So you can see that each folder represents to a feature or a profile or a state machine, and how this state machine are initiated and invoked will be discussed later. So now let's have a view of the architecture of Bluetooth on Android. So the Bluetooth stack, as we know, it will not only communicate with remote devices, it also provides interfaces for local applications. So the left part represents the various remote Bluetooth devices. Here we have a simple code stack example for the SDP. For the SDP protocol, the service discovery protocol, you can see that after the data come in, the packet is finally passed to the SDP related method here. And in the right part, it shows the internal of the local structure of Bluetooth, of Bluedroid, which is the implementation of Bluetooth on Android. And from up to down, we separate it into different parts. First is the application layer, and then is the Bluetooth stack. So now first, let's to see the application layer. All the applications that will use Bluetooth on this layer, and they are the client or server which will process the data processed in out by Bluetooth. And usually they will get the Bluetooth service by bundle, but sometimes the URPC will be used. Here you can see that the A2DP will use URPC when processing data, like here, and these details will be discussed later. And also, as other hardwares, there will be some drivers in kernel. to ensure that the BT adapter work well. And also the functions in these drivers will be our target in our kernel fuzz part. Yeah. Now let's go through the startup flow to get to know how the start machines we mentioned before are initiated. Also by clearly understanding the startup flow, it will help us to find a way to treat these callbacks related to each start machines. So now let's begin. And this figure shows the background when Bluetooth is enabled. Here we simply separate this into two parts. First is the init flow, and then is the enable flow. And as we know, although Bluetooth are multi-thread, use multi-thread to init the modules it will use. But what will first be invoked is the init flow that in the left part of the figure is here. And it will be triggered in the flow of starting Bluetooth service. And after init some modules like the start config module and others. Finally, it will set up the important callback functions to process messages. This is the BTU HCI message process. It will process messages that pass from the HCI to low layer and routing these messages to L2 cap layer if it's necessary. But in this time, init flow just set it up, and then it's the enable flow to let it really begin to work. So now let's see the enable flow, and not like init flow. Enable flow will finish many initiations for each start machines of each profiles. At the beginning of it, there will be a branch. There will be a branch to check whether the init flow is done. If it's not, it will try to invoke function in the event init stack to finish what init flow should do. And if the init flow is done, then it's time to set up all the start machines and also their callbacks and the interfaces that will be used for each layers and each profiles and each protocols. And this figure, yeah, and this figure shows the call stack of the event init stack. Here the figure also gives us the information that the Bluetooth app will use a new thread. Yeah, you can see we'll use a new thread to start to. Oh no! Oh, sorry. Yeah, to finish the init, and so at the top, the BTE manput entry. It will finish the setup. It will finish the setup of the callbacks finally. And except for these modules, one of the most important thing is to let the message loop thread begin to run, which is already set up in init flow as we discussed. Is this? This is the main message loop thread. To finish this, the BTU message loop run will be invoked. And finally, it will tell the layer that the Bluetooth is ready to serve while informing the Jiang thread. And also, we separate the communication with Bluetooth process into two groups. One is the remote communication, like sending and receiving packets from other Bluetooth devices. And another is local communication, like to use Bluetooth service, the service object wire bundle, or just the streaming data to the start machine via UIPC. So, and now let's go through the common packet structure of the Bluetooth on Android. As we've talked before, have a uniform data format is somehow fuzzing friendly, for we can control the data more easily. In Android, every packet that received from the remote will be described by a struct, the BTHDR. Just like the vehicle shoes, but but in fact, all the data should be processed usually are in the data array field. And also in the code, we will see that sometimes, and also in the code, we'll see sometimes the code will use this to calculate the real address of the data, not just by the data array field. And also the offset field sometimes will guide the processing function to skip some head when it begins to process data. And I remember that we will have an example in the next section. Yeah. And also when Bluetooth receives a packet from the outside, the message loop process function, just the way we talked before this will examine the packet and decide where to pass it to the L2 cap level. And if the answer is yes, the L2 cap will receive ACL data like this. Will be invoked as the ACL data will be passed to it for further process, and as the above figure shows. So now let's have an example of it. For space scenario, when other Bluetooth adapt want to pair with us, the SMP, the so-called the security manager protocol will be invoked and to receive and send for security pairing. As you can see from the figure, when the SMP packet is received, the packet is passed to the L2 CV and by the fixed channel. And then after many process, the callback function here will be invoked to deal with these SMP packets. This figure show this and also no. And also this figure show you the cost stack of the processing SMP packet. And due to we use two Bluetooth low energy devices, so it's the SMP BR data related function process the packet. And also this figure will give you a glimpse of the SMP packet. This is very important. So as you can see that the first byte represent the type of the SMP packet. So by changing its value, we may trigger different behaviors of the SMP related functions. And this is another space scenario for SDP, the Service Discover Protocol communication. This figure gives us a full view of how the packet is routed when it's received. First is the message process loop, and then the callbacks will pass it to L2 cap, and in the L2 cap, just like here, it's the execute functions will examine the channels of our SDP, and finally, if it's opened, then it's the open function worked. And also in the open function, there will be a context switch to just switch the Bluetooth thread to the thread that will process the SDP data to the callbacks, the SDP data int. Okay. And also this is the cost stack for processing the SDP data. And this figure also shows the structure map of the SDP package. As you can see in the package, we show you that it shows us that it's the attribute requesting packet, and the parameter is the 0x1d, and which is 29 in diameter, and the size of the foreign data behind is just in the length of 29. Okay, above we will discuss some scenarios about how BlueDroid process packet is received from outside, and here we will discuss a common scenario which will let us have a look into the local communication. And usually we talked about using Bluetooth service. We all know that we can use bundle to get the service and use it. But sometimes the UIPC will be used. For example, the A2DP. The A2DP will use the UIPC to receive data for completing streaming audios to other Bluetooth devices like headsets. Here we discuss the scenario about play music. This figure gives us the overview of how it works. Here we can see when send data frames to headphone, the SBC send frames will invoke the A2DP SBC encoder. Encoder first. Then the data will be read from UIPC and delivered to SBC encoder. Finally, what is sent is the encoded data. Here, what surprises us is that there is an embedded encoder and decoder in the Bluetooth, the SBC ACC encoder. And in fact, it's the SBC and AAC encoder will finally use the UIPC to read data from the local music player. And here is the code stack of how SBC related encoder is invoked. You can see it's the A2DP SBC sender frames finally invoke it. And this is the cost, and also this is the code stack of the UIPC reader. Compares with the figure about the SBC encoder, you can find that it will be the A2DP SBC reader feeding use the UIPC read. Oh no, sorry. Hey, sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It will be the, read data from local music player, and then the SBC encoder will process the data. And finally, the data will be sent to a remote device. So now we know the workflow of each standard machine, the common packet structure and the formats that each profiles used with. And then we treated these callbacks of each profiles as other target to fuzz. And now with the target function selected, and what we should do is to enable the sanitizer to help us to dig vulnerabilities easily. And currently, we just enable ASN on Bluetooth by the above command, like here. And in fact, there are two ways to enable ASN in a module. And one is directly set the sanitizer target to be addressed, and another is to set a related variable in Android.bp file. Here we use the first one. And also for skipping the config on phones, we directly copy the ASN bin file to make a new system image to directly enable ASN without any config. You can see like this. Yeah. So here you can see in here the libBluetooth.so already have the ASN enabled. And now with the attack interface chosen and the Sanitizer Support enabled, let's have a look at the structure of our user space fuzzing framework. And this is the overview of it. And in the left top is the target we want to fuzz with Sanitizer enabled. Also, our fuzz agent is included in this part. Also, as we said, due to the Bluetooth has two ways to communicate with. One is the local communication, and the other is the remote communication. There also should be a payload process, which is used to perform local communicate with Bluetooth. And the right is the controller, which contains a monitor and a fuzzing agent and a fuzzing agent controller. The fuzzing agent accepts the controller signal to load our materials into target and performing data mutating on targeting functions based on this material. And also the signal will tell fuzz agent whether to do some special fuzzing actions like repeating invoking at one fuzzing point. And then is the fuzzing strategy. First is the fuzzing agent we choose. In fact, we want our agent to be easy to control and extend. As we mentioned before, since the target we want to fuzz usually need well-formatted data to pass in and usually need some context-related communication to trigger some code pass. So the fuzz agent should support that just muted data at where we want. And since we use real device to perform fuzzing, we finally choose Frida as the fuzz agent. In fact, we do ever build a Linux version of Bluetooth to try to fuzzing it via AFL, but we failed due to it's hard to emulate the environment it needs. And the thread is easy to control with Python. And in fact, our monitor also use Python to control ADB to retrieve logs and processing them. Also with the JavaScript, we can easily extend our fuzzing script to add or remove a function that we want to fuzz or accurately control our mutating policy, like increasing the probability of a data stream to be mutated, skipping some specified bytes in a past data stream when we found that byte should not be mutated. And then is the monitor. The monitor should at least can collect enough logs on time and locating crash to locating crash point. And it should also can monitor target status in order to restart target when the target is hung or in some other unexpected states. And also thanks to the Android debug bridge demo, for user-space fuzzing, the log provided by the ADBD is enough for us to collect logs that are caused by ASIN. And simply as you can see, all lines begin with this and end with this. We just trace these two lines. We will get all the logs about one crash. And then what the monitor should do is to locate the crash point based on the last function in the call stack before ASIN. And we also use this to remove the duplicate crashes. And also the tombstone corresponding to the crash will be put out to be stored for further manual examining. And finally, it's the reproducer. We all know that a good fuzzer should record the data that caused the crash for researcher to reproduce the crash. What we do is to store the data we mutate it, like hex strings, to files with timestamp. So when a crash happens, we could just re-examine these logs to get the data that caused the crash. So this is the overview of our core modules with the strategies we've talked before. And the controller contains a further client, wrapper with Python, which takes the responsibility to make sure that the target is being hooked and the fuzzing script is executed correctly. And the monitor takes the response to collect log, crash dump, and remove duplicate crash. And we also have the controller to make sure that the target is alive. And also here the AGBD plays a very important role for our monitor because our monitor use locate to retrieve log from device and also put a new correct tombstones from the device via ADB. And finally, here are some tips and practice in our implementation. And the above figure shows the functions we fuzz. And in order to let Fredda can find these functions, we should also change them to be the global visible symbols. So as you can see, we just add the attribute prefix to each functions. And then we also find that the API, the find by export name provided by Fredda will sometimes give us a wrong function address, which could not be used for mutating data. So finally, we found that we just use the Aminet exports. We just use this to get all the symbols in an SO, and then we just compare for the names to find their address, and this works well. And also, as I said before, in the code, there are a lot of places that use this way and they will use this way to get the data's address, not just via the data field in the BTR thread by this. So we ever tried to just use this data array field in BTR-GR, but finally we found that sometimes it will not point to a right address of the data. So what we do is that if the code gets addressed by this, we also do it by this in our fuzzing script. Yeah, and As you can see, this function in the L2C RCV ECU data, we just use this map to get the real data address. And here my part is done. And now it's my colleague Lance will show you the kernel space fuzzing.
Okay, my name is Jiang. Now let's go through the kernel space fuzzing. In this part, I will show you how we use the passive fuzz for vulnerability discovery. We will go through each of them, and finally, we will have a crash case study. Okay, now let's start the topic. As shown in the above figure, we can see that the Android security bulletin disclosed the vulnerability from January to March 2019. Each of them has a lot of kernel vulnerabilities. And in the vulnerability disclosure in March, CVE 2019202025 can gain the root access of the Pixel series mobile phones. And therefore, the research on the Android kernel vulnerability is very important. Now let's talk about passive fuzz architecture. So how to achieve passive fuzz? Firstly, we need to color interceptor. The interceptor is built into the color as a part of the color and has a good stability. When adding the acceptor, you need to pay attention to what considering whether the mobile phone is properly booted. You need to set a start switch for fuzz to avoid this problem. After you flash the color with interceptor, so we choose the Linux system core kill. Or a better method is to add a new system core to do it, but it may damage the stability of the system. So we still use the kill function that have already in the system core. The main advantages are number one, the owner of this function is the caller, and it has a good stability. Number two, the function can be called directly in the shell via the kill command, which is easy to use. Number three, the function has two parameters, which can provide a variety of usages, such as transferring the filter list in the caller. But how to transfer the filter list to the caller? As we all know, the kill function has two parameters. The one is process PID and the other one is the signal. After testing, we found that the value of the signal is between 0 and 64, but it cannot be a 32-bit or 64-bit address. However, we can use hexadecimal value to transfer data. So we can only use the value of the signal from 0 to 15. Yeah. Then the filter list information is received in the caller by the caller, as shown in the figure. Since the signal only transmits 4 bits each time, if you want to transfer 32 bits, you need to receive 8 times, so that it can transfer the command code of the IOCTL function that you want to filter to the caller. After having the caller interceptor and the fuzzing trigger, we need the fuzz strategies as follows. Number one, without changing the length of the parameter. Number two, modifying the fixed number bytes in the parameter. For example, modify 1/8 bytes in the parameter. Number three, only modify the bit or 1 byte in the parameter. And the number four, modifying the random number of bytes in the parameter. And number five, using the for loop to perform multi-fuzz in order to reduce the influence of context switching when fuzzing. And number six, set the fuzz frequency for each target function, such as thousands, because the fuzz frequency will affect the discovery of some vulnerability. For example, we found that increasing the frequency will lead to more OOM type vulnerabilities when fuzzing. What do we need to prepare? Firstly, we must know how to open keysign in the caller, and then if the caller panicked, we need to know where the panic log is stored. Correcting the panic log of Android caller, we need to know first the panic log of Android caller is stored in the sysfsp store directory. There are 3 files in the directory, as shown in the picture, and the DMESGIMOOPS0 file is a panic log file. Caller address sanitizer is mainly used to detect out-of-bounds memory access and the use of release memory. Google provides keysign configuration file named build.config.keysign in Caller 4.9.96, which can be used directly when we build Caller source code. After building successfully, as shown in the picture, the keysign will help us find more vulnerabilities. When we have prepared Caller with interceptor and flash it into Pixel 3 to touch, the touch screen doesn't work. And when compiling Android source code, we found that all the replaced kill files are repackaged into the vendor directory, but no new vendor.img file generated. That is to say, LSP does not generate the vendor.img file, but use the default vendor.img provided by Google. So the replaced kill files is not packaged into the vendor.img. So the touch screen does not work. Attempting to use insmod command to load the models in vendor lib models directory and find out that Y failed. There are 2 problems. The one is required key, not available, and the other one is execute format error. But how to deal with it? The solution is to remove the signature authentication of the caller and modify the files in the vendor.img that provided by Google. Last but not least, we need to turn off the DM variety checking. Otherwise, the new vendor.img will fail to load. It's insmod to load the kill files. The caller attack interface is shown in the picture. As all drivers can be used as our attack interface, such as COSICOM, V4L2, and KGSL, and so on. You can also choose some memory operation functions, such as copy from user, memory copy, and mmap. But here we choose the KGSL driver as the target attack interface. Why we choose KGSL? As shown in the figure, KGSL is mainly called by OpenGLES. It's mainly responsible for the rendering of 3D images in Android, and it's mainly used in games which have many 3D scenes. However, the implementation of KGS in the caller is done by OpenGLES. The OpenGLES is a HAL layer, which is provided by Qualcomm and has no source code. The next layer is the KGSL 3D0 driver in the caller, and it's open source. The driver in the phone is div KGSL 3D0. There are a total of 35 functions in KGSL. We have statistics on the historical variabilities of KGSL, as shown in the figure. Though the statistic of historical vulnerabilities of KGSL 3D0 driver and found that there are a large number of security issues. As can be seen from the above picture, there are many UEF vulnerabilities in KGSL, which very harmful. Analyzing these vulnerabilities found that these vulnerabilities were mainly focused on memory allocation and resource risk. Tracing back to KGSL's threat history, there are many security issues. For example, integer overflow include CVE 20124220 and CVE 20124221 and CVE 20124222. There are still many vulnerabilities that can gain the root privileges of the mobile phone without the user's suspicions. And the harm caused by the vulnerabilities is immeasurable. The typical one is called router. The above picture shows the whole KGSL passive fuzz framework that includes the Android caller setup process. Firstly, the boot node will start the caller and pass the device tree to the caller. The caller executes the start caller function to initialize, and finally its driver KGSL initialize process each. As shown in the figure, it's a driver KGSL initializing processing. Each driver in the caller has an initializing function, which is responsible for registering and loading the driver. And the initialization function is called in the doInit course function, so that KGSL 3D0 and the application can use the driver. Finally, our fuzzing idea is modifying the content that DST pointer points to after a copy from user. And the parameters can be passed in from the user space. As shown in the picture is the KGSL function called flowchart. KGSL 3D0 is a driver which in div directory. When we use it before, we should open it firstly, and then we will get a handle that can be used by IOCTL method. In the caller, it will go into syscall IOCTL first. After some simple parameters checking, it will enter do VFS IOCTL. And in this function, some distribution work will happen, but if there is no matching command code, it will enter the VFS IOCTL function. And there is a very important function, here called unlocked IOCTL, which is available to other Java developers to implement. And the KGSL IOCTL is one of the implementation of this function. Finally, the function call enters the KGSL 3D0 driver that including 35 functions. And in KGSL IOCTL helper method, it will determine which function to call based on the command code. There is a function structure named KGSL IOCTL FUNCS, including function name and the command code. That is to say, we can get function name via command code according to this structure. At last, use CMD's NR FNC method called the target function. The whole kernel space fuzz framework is shown in the figure. It uses the CS mode and communicating through the Android debug bridge. The whole process is divided into 4 steps. Firstly, start the fuzz program with the HITB show kill 17.1 command, because of we have modified the kill function in the caller, and the PID equals 1 is an init process. It cannot be killed. So we add some code work when PID is 1. And then start some 3D games or program to call the KGSL function. Thirdly, fuzzing and crash caller. And finally, monitor and automatically achieve panic knocks. As shown in the above picture, it's the system call. It's the system call stack of the KGSL driver, which includes user space and caller space. The left side is the functions that the dynamic library exported, and the right side is the system call stack of KGSL, IOCTL, GPU, OBJ, alloc function, which is triggered by libHWI.so. And the call stack is shown in the picture. Generally, the upper border will call the GSL type functions of libGSL.so. But sometimes the IOCTL KGSL type function will also be called directly, such as IOCTL KGSL shared memory free. Finally, the IOCTL function is called by the GSL LDD control function to access KGSL driver in the caller. As shown in the figure, is caller panic call stack, and the crash occurs in KGSL IOCTL GPU LBGL log function. Now let's talk about how to make the caller passive fuzz automation. Fuzz automation server is deployed on the PC and communicates with mobile phone through HITB. The main org of the server is shown in the picture. In the caller fuzz process, we need to know the status of fuzz. For example, you can view the caller code coverage when fuzzing and find out the code branch that passive fuzz does not reach. Filtering the functions that have been found or no need to fuzz. It can help us change our strategies to get a better performance, because of if it is always in the same or often in the same function panic, it will make our passive fuzz unable to continue to find other functions that may appear panic. It is what key cover looks like in IDAR. This is a simple IDAR plugin wrote in Python that can mark the reached block and generate a text report file about functions coverage. You can also use the lighthouse to show the coverage. It's well more beautiful. It looks like this. This bar chart shows the fuzz status of KGSL 3D0. The left side indicates the number of crashes. The right side shows the number of each fuzzing function. As shown in the picture, it's the strategy one that's starting different 3D games to improve the code coverage. But there is a disadvantage. The calling frequency of many methods is still not high, which cannot achieve a good fuzz performance. However, in the passive fuzz, a high method trigger rate is required to find out as many panics as possible. So we need to find out some strategies to improve the fuzz frequency of each method. There are two ways to do this. The first method is add a for loop to each function that fuzz reached, so that you can increase the fuzz frequency by modifying the parameters of the for loop. The second method is to add an active trigger program. We will add the fuzz status record in passive fuzz. Whenever a new function is fuzzed, record its command code and parameters, and then use the record data to achieve the purpose of active triggering by writing a schedule program, it's add a for loop. And however, the active schedule method has also a disadvantage. That is, the fuzz function is single, but cannot associate the context of each function call, so that it can only find the vulnerability in the internal processing of single function, and cannot associate it with other functions such as CVE 20163842. The vulnerability involves two KGSL functions that need to be used together. So we combine the two ways to achieve better fuzz performance. This is the main part of CVE 20163842 POC. It can be seen that the vulnerability is caused by risk condition. Now let's talk about crash case study. Case 1, we found that the KGSL CTL GPU MEM alloc ID method have a vulnerability. There is a GPU MEM alloc method, and the parameters we can control. There is a it's a source code about this case. And case 2 is vulnerability in KGSL IOCTL allocate alloc method. And here is a GPU memory alloc entry method. And the issue is happened in this method. It's a source code about this case. Finally, okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Any questions?
Please give a big applause to the team.
Thank you.